Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Psychic Zen. I'm here with my co host, Nancy Barr. Everybody say hi to Nancy. Nancy, say hi to everybody.
Hello. Hello, everybody.
So, we're super excited to be with you tonight. I am feeling very electrified and joyful about this experience to be with you here tonight, because it's the company that I'm with, but also the subjects that we're going to talk about tonight that I feel most excited about. Nancy and I have been reviewing a lot of lessons and truths together, and one of these things that she brought to me recently was the light bringers always bring the light, whether it's through prayer, thanking the fifth dimension, going to the high fourth for guidance. They bring in the light, and that just lit up this big light bulb for me. And if you watch Psychic Zen, you know Nancy likes simple. Simple works. So to have something so simple yet so strong was like the premise of where we came together to bring this podcast to you tonight. Nancy, anything to weigh in so far on that?
Just everything you just said.
Okay.
You know, it's a different age now, and this is the age of light. And we're so lucky we've made it to this time period. And I'm so excited that actually we get a chance to show what works and what really works, and to bring peace and harmony, and to bring a lot of hopefully fun and enjoyment to our lives, because we're in this new age and everything changed. I mean, a lot of things changed from the Pisces age to this age. So I'm very excited that we get a chance to see things work that we've known for quite a while.
Yes. I feel so, like the big thing for me, and what I loved so much, is that I had people actually, when they saw me post this flyer, they were like, like, I see you're going to have this tonight, but where is it? Where can I find you? And that made me feel really good. Because the flyer is so simple. It's just like, tonight, Nancy and I will be discussing the ego. And, there's so many different ideas about what the ego is and how it serves us. And is it good for us? Is it not good for us? So tonight, Nancy is going to answer those questions with us. And I have some key points to interject as she explains to us the ego and what does it mean to be solution minded versus, thinking thoughts, or thoughts create separation, but coming from the truth within the heart creates solution. So I'm going to hand this over to Nancy to explain what I just said.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Well, there's a difference between believing and having belief systems that we've learned, that we've experienced, and we've talked about belief systems and the thoughts, and I'm trying to come together with a way of understanding things. But that's the difference between the belief system and knowing, is the difference between understanding something. So understanding is totally different than just having a belief system that you say, how are you feeling today? And the person says, well, I should say good. I feel well. Thank you. No, the idea is to understand what the ego is, and to understand how it affects us, and has affected everyone at some point in time, and maybe more than others in different ways. It just depends on what the person's here to experience. But for me, the ego is sort of like, we have a high self, and it's in our heart chakra. And the high self leads us hopefully into to understanding, to knowledge, to knowing, and so on. Well, the ego, I think, does something very similar to the lower levels of the dimensions. And it sort of leads and guides the thought process, and a lot of times what we think we understand, we really don't understand. We really don't know. And so the ego knows everything. I mean, it thinks it's got all the answers, and my way is the only way, and the right way, and so on. So the ego, to me, is sort of a low self to the illusion, which is the opposite of knowing. So the illusion are the belief systems and all of the different things that we go through to learn. It serves a purpose, certainly, because it gives us what we don't want. A lot of times it teaches us what we don't want to do. And it can be very helpful, and it also leads us into trouble when we follow it. So sooner or later, it has a very high position in a low way to people and their daily life.
Right. I mean, what inspired me so much, or when Nancy and I were talking about this, is most recently having the car accident. Nancy and I were going over what were my thoughts, what were my belief systems, where was I energetically in all of this. And when she said light bringers bring in the lights, bring in the light, to me, what I was able to pull away from that is like the ego wants to control. The ego wants to dictate to us what everything is, and that kind of makes us feel comfortable, but it doesn't really lead us to the truth. When we surrender, when we go to the heart. So we have this knee-jerk habit to come from the mind. Oh, something happened and I need to think about it. And then the mind chews on it, and then Maya is there chewing on it with us. But when we go to the heart, we could just get into the simplicity of surrender in truth, in alignment. We'll ask for the higher power to bring something to us, and that higher power provides to us because it loves us. And that's when you really feel this, in my experience, that's when I really feel this deep, profound, like soft love, wafts of love, being really in the bliss state of the higher dimensions. And it's a great feeling.
The ego likes to separate us. So in other words, you might have a friend and that person says something maybe you didn't agree with, or that person does something that you would rather they hadn't done, and so on. And the egos, both egos, will feel the separation. So where the higher levels are unity, the fifth dimension and high self and so on, it's about unity. It's a win-win for everyone. The ego takes its own selfish point of view and puts it into a place where where we're going to hear it, experience it, and oftentimes act on it. But it's separation. It is it leads to separation. It leads to my way is right way, your way isn't. You can even have egos expressing themselves like in granular ways that, it's so proud that it did this and did that and took responsibility and so on. And it's a fine line between that sometimes and the high self, because the ego can pretend to be this changed person. It can pretend to do different things that the light does. It mimics it. But is it consistent, and does it understand why it's doing it? In other words, in the higher levels, there's a knowledge, there's knowing, and there's an understanding what happened, what you're doing, how you're doing it, why you're doing it, and that how to get to the solution and so on. Where the ego is always leaving it sort of undone and either leading it into a way that it won't work.
Like incomplete?
Make you happy.
Like the ego leads us into an incomplete scenario, but the coming from the solution makes us feel wholeness and unity, being in oneness.
Well, a lot of people have ideas, and they have all kinds. We're taught ideas as a child. We're taught what God is or is not. We're taught how to behave or what ways are acceptable, and that varies a lot of times with cultures, different cultures.
Okay.
There's so many variations of different things we're taught, or our experiences. If we had a bad experience, let's say we were bitten by an animal, so now we don't like animals, or we don't like that particular animal, and we're afraid we're going to get bitten again, and it runs through our subconscious to keep the fear. So, we can also associate a lot of the ego. It's going to be a leader towards fear and separation and fear and to things that are not. Again, there's a big difference between understanding and knowing something and knowledge. When you know it, it takes care of all that. You don't need the ego when you have knowledge, when you know. The knowing it's a heartfelt experience that doesn't have doubt attached to it.
Right.
Where the ego has, between the chatter that likes to take the ego and assist it in its illusion, it wants to with you, it wants to mislead you, or it's going to mislead you because of all the different belief systems and the different things that we believe. The problem is not everybody believes the same thing, not everyone does the same thing, nor should they. But the reason and understanding I do certain things, and the knowledge I have and the knowing will allow me to do things that work for me, not against me. Where following the ego, which is what most people do, it could be greed, people that are greedy, or corporate, it could be anybody, any greed at all. Or, someone who's angry is going to experience anger, is going to show anger somewhere else. I mean, they're going to punish someone with it. One way or another themselves. It can be self-punishment. And if someone is fearful, they're going to make different decisions that may not work for their highest good. And this is when the ego comes in. That person, as though it knows the right way and what that person should or shouldn't do for the solution. And it usually will lead a way. It has a way to the matrix or the computer program that we're in. And it also leads in a way that will confuse and bring doubt, and eventually won't work.
Right.
So if you want something to work, by going to the higher level of solution. So instead of asking talking about the problem and asking what the problem is, the solution would be to ask what the answer is.
Right.
Or to ask a way to receive the answer, or ask a way that would bring harmony and love and a different experience. Once you have that knowledge, once you know and once you understand, once you have that experience of your heart, it takes care of the disbeliefs, it takes care of the doubt, it takes care of the ego. And you don't experience that nearly as much. The more you do this, the less ego will be involved, because it's not going to be something you choose.
I feel from my own personal experiences, using the knowledge that you have provided me with, it's you always say, and I love this, it works. I use what works. It should be simple. It should be clear. Less words, less thought. And it's so true. And it seems almost, and when I first started out with these ideas, sometimes it would seem mind bending, but that's how connected I was, or in attachment I was with the ego. But now, from the experience of being on the other side of it, it really is simple. You understand why silence can say so much, or a few words can be so powerful, and the energy and the feeling that comes through the vibration that you have. So, like, a lot of the key things that I wrote down for notes tonight was the power of forgiveness. As soon as you forgive yourself, a powerful thing I experienced recently with Nancy, we had a discussion. She said, why don't you meditate it? I'll meditate on it and call me back. And when I did, I said, well, let me pray, as I meditate. And I said, I forgive myself for being in the energy of being there mentally, and for being there. And, I just forgive myself. I release myself of any and all things for being in that space. And I felt this big energy shift, and it was like a unfolding flower, where just one piece came in, one word came in, one feeling came in right after the other. And I was like, wow, isn't it incredible that forgiveness, self-forgiveness, forgiveness of others, forgiveness over simple things that you may not even realize can be so powerful, can in fact be so powerful. And how the ego creates these ideas or thoughts that, if you're not conscious of it, can create separation, because you're saying I, them, I, me, them, me, this, and you're not even realizing the separation that you're creating because you're just going down the default pathway. But then when you do become mindful, or you are in tune energetically and you have the feeling, it changes so much because you go, oh my God, wow, look at that. Like, there's solution oriented. I can go to the fourth and I could ask for guidance. I could go to the fifth and say, thank you for providing it to me. I can ask the guides, God source, my high self, to provide something for me. And just those three simple things can create such powerful differences in your life. And it's all love. And that's so fantastic to be in the experience of so much love.
Sometimes the ego comes across, and I agree with what you said. Not that I need to, because what you said was true. But the ego can also come across like the friend. It can maybe are a good person who does really good things, and they do it out of codependency, or they do it instead of doing it, do what they can without self-sacrifice. They self-sacrifice themselves, and they do something. Maybe it's not for their highest good or their wellness, or their they do it for their. A lot of this depends on the intent in which something's done, whether it's ego or it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And the ego is always going to be something. The ego is always going to be something that separates, like you just said. The separation can be, that person I helped, but I ended up hurting myself. Separation.
Right.
It can be, I understand what you're saying, but I don't like you anymore because I don't think this is good for me. I've got to ghost you. I've got to get you out of my life, just because I just am fearful, and you scare me, and so on. That's all ego. Right. So there's so many different avenues that the ego takes. It will take any avenue it can to separate and to be dominant. It wants to be dominant, and it wants to be. But unfortunately, in our world, it is a computer program that makes us into slaves and puts us in the wrong space. Not right or wrong. You choose. Everyone chooses to go from the ego or go from the heart. Everything happens to us. We make a decision and a choice. It's either a choice that I'm going to buy into the problem. I'm going to buy into that person hurt me. I'm going to buy into I've lost everything. I have no desire. Nothing is going to work for me. I've never had anything work for me, and blah, 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 and all this different attitudes. And the ego is in back of that. The ego's trying to guide you that there's no hope, there's no life, there's no, nothing good is going to happen to me. And I've had so much, I've borne so much, oh my gosh, and I feel so sorry for myself. Well, you can do that. I mean, that, we're in a program, so these things that are not very much fun happen. And we don't realize if we take responsibility for our own actions, the ego can sit there and say, see, you need to be punished. You need to be, it can work against you. If you don't take responsibility for your actions, then it can catch you the other way by, having you be right and everyone else be wrong, and so on, which is when finger points one way out, it points three ways back with the thumb holding it. So judgment happens. So it's very tricky. I mean, we have, a lot of things. Greed is the, ego. It's usually attached to fear as well, some kind of fear, because fear will also cause the ego to come flying out and trying to get us to follow it. The ego's the answer. Well, I have the right to be judgmental. I have the right because look what they did. I have the right to revenge. Look what they did. I have the right to do this. I have the right to do that. That's ego.
Right.
And then I listen, Teresa, I listen to people. I know you do too, but I listen to people and I hear they're saying a lot of things that are true, and they're trying to turn their life around. And I hear I, just like you mentioned earlier,
mm-hmm.
I, and that's usually as soon as the eyes and it doesn't disqualify the person when you have knowledge and knowing, and when you know something, you don't have to prove it. It's already there. I mean, it's already present. It's already a done deal. It's in the now, and it's where peace comes from. It's where if the now is unlimited, so it can have unlimited possibilities of solving a problem, or if you want to go in and then maybe it's not a problem, maybe you want to go in and just go to your heart chakra and say, I just want to be happy. I just want to be happy. I just want to be happy. I choose happiness. I choose peace. I choose peace. Is not what people think it is. People think that if there's no war that it's peaceful. No, there's a lot of things that are not peaceful, that are in the middle of something being quiet. We associate peace with a lot of different things that are not peace. Peace is knowledge. Peace is knowing. Peace is I don't have to doubt. Peace is I can have and be connected to the higher level. Peace is being in touch, knowing that the Creator, the thing that created everything, all that is absolutely the pure and the energy of light and God, or whatever term somebody wants to call it. But it is the divine, and it's right inside of us. It's already there. So the ego wants us to go chasing after something, and to go chasing and look at this, and we got to behave this way, and we got to wear this and do that and do this and do that. No, it's already inside. It's already inside of everybody. And all they need to do is recognize it and tap in. And it's going to sit there and try to poke us and say, hi, I'm here. But, if you want to see a movie and you want to meet an actor or a singer or somebody, or you are someone that does acting and singing and so on, and people want to come up and meet you and they want to really adore you, well, there's a place for love being in that, and if the person loves a person and admires their skills and admire them, that is a higher level. But on the other hand, if they think that they have to compare themselves to that person, or if they think that they don't have the essence that they see in someone else, they're going to miss the mark, because it's already inside them. Otherwise, they wouldn't even recognize it in someone else.
That's right. It's so easy for our thoughts, and it's usually not consciously, that our thoughts can be sabotaging, and it leads back to the ego. And like we said earlier, thoughts create separation to our own self, separation to each other, separation to a higher power. But when you are connected, the importance of why we share frequently, go within, is because when you do go within and you connect to the heart, it's a completely different energy. It's this beautiful divine love that you find within yourself, and it feels magical. It's our natural state of being. It's what we really are. But it feels so magical when you're doing it. You're like, wow, look at these results I'm getting. Wow, can you believe that this happened? Wow, this unfolded for me. Wow, that was really natural. Wow, I feel so blessed. Wow, I feel really grateful. And it's like, that is what you can tap into for anything and everything that you have ongoing in your life, if you allow that to be your knee-jerk reaction instead of working with the ego. And like Nancy said, it's a moment-to-moment choice. It's a moment-to-moment awareness. And that's why it's important to have a self-awareness and to know the difference of, well, this is what connection feels like, and this is what connection to source feels like, and this is what connection leads to, versus this is what separation leads to. If I feel temporarily empowered, but then I'm disempowered in the long run, then I didn't really get anywhere. And that's the straying from the ego.
The path to doing what we're talking about is the breath. And right inside the breath is the divine. And if you were going to say, I started saying this, and I don't know if I finished this thought process, but anyway, if you want to meet somebody, how would you like to meet the divine? How would you like to meet the actual source that created every single thing everywhere in our universe? that created it all uniquely, and there's no one that's quite the same. It's all unique. How would you like to meet something like that? And that's what we're talking about. When you meet that source, by the breath or meditating or whatever avenue a person can be successful doing that, it takes focus. First of all, you got to focus, and the focus is, I choose to experience something that's peaceful or good or loving or kind. Kind in not the normal sense of kind being that I have to be kind to everyone and I have to act in a certain way and so on, but it is an end result of being attached to something that's pure. It's not about becoming something. It's in me. I feel kind because I love everybody. I feel love because everybody, I don't know, I just feel it. Why, so when you get into that zone, everything else gets taken care of around you. And whatever you have to go through, and some people are going through some really rough times now and some really difficulties, and there's a lot of confusion, which happens with thinking and doubt. As soon as doubt walks into the thoughts, then you go into confusion. And then you have to sit there and find out which kind of ego do you want to follow? Do you want to follow someone else's ideas, or do you have a feeling yourself? Do you understand something on your own? Do you have to listen to someone else, like people are listening or not listening to us? But it's either, but we would never tell anyone what to do. I mean, it's not something, the only thing I can say, it's right inside of you. You don't have to make it happen. You don't have to keep it happening. You don't have to beg for it happening. It's already there. All what you need to do is focus inside and to want it, to say yes.
Right. I took some of the notes down from the other day, and I put them down to make sure that I had like everything that I wanted to share for tonight. Nancy, can you talk about why self-forgiveness and forgiveness of others is important? And people experience varying degrees of finding it easy or hard to forgive. Can you share what you know about that, or what you feel guided to share about that?
Well, we think we're forgiving someone else and their actions or their deeds or something we didn't like or something that was hurtful or something that didn't work, or or they abandoned us or whatever, all the different things that can happen to people here. And the forgiveness is not so much for that person who are the people that did it. The forgiveness is more for the person who's doing the forgiving. Because once you, what you're doing when you forgive someone, you truly forgive it. Not just say the words, but you actually forgive the person. You don't keep throwing it in their face, and you don't keep blaming them and so on. But true forgiveness is when you want to have, it's a gift. It's one of the highest gifts to God. God doesn't need our help and doesn't need our wisdom, but it's one of the kindest focuses that we can do with someone. And that is that if we forgive it, because it's like, forgiveness to me is like an eraser. It erases whatever that deed is. And most people that they're in the position to forgive, they need to forgive. Also, if they knew everything that they've ever done in every life, in every time zone and so forth, they probably did the same thing somewhere, and it's going to come right back to you. Every time you judge, you're going to have something come right back that's going to show you that you're getting judged for the same thing you just judged. And it's the same thing. Forgiveness is, to me, again, it's like an eraser. It's self-forgiveness is to erase. I choose the higher level. I choose the solution. I choose peace. I choose having fun. I choose enjoying my life. I don't have time for this, to hold this grudge. I don't have any desire to, it's already done and over. I don't have any desire to keep holding on to it. And that releases the person. It may or may not release that person, or it could release that person from the problem, but it certainly released you from any time you did it in a past life or in this lifetime. So just, it's just like a big eraser that takes away the problem. Another avenue to get into light. If you hold on to it, and you hold on to it, you're going to repeat it. And not only is it going to come back to you, it's going to be repeated. You're sending it out to the universe. You're also saying it won. Whatever was done, whatever harm was done was powerful. It was so powerful, I got to ruin my life to keep thinking about it and keep holding on to it. And that is something that does not work in this age of Aquarius.
Yeah.
You will never find peace that way.
I think it's really interesting too, the knowing that there is a consciousness of love inside of us, that when we connect to that realness within ourselves, we get easier. The energy, or in my experience, the energy gets easier. That if I was previously upset about something or someone, first, it's separate the person from the behavior. I love the person, but I don't love the behavior. And then you could even say, well, if I did it in a past life or I did it in this life, and I'm learning something from this interaction, you give yourself the forgiveness. I feel like this is where, to me, my experience, this is where self-forgiveness really made a difference for me, is I forgive myself for believing in the illusion of separation between them and me. I forgive myself for my reaction. I forgive myself for my feelings. I forgive myself for the thoughts that I had that created me to become so upset. And I seek the wisdom from the divine to help me navigate the situation once I've created some space between me and the illusion, me and the false idea or the false narrative. And that's when you can make that big shift and open up the possibilities of love coming in. And actually, Nancy said this great thing last week. She said, whatever other feelings you're engaging in outside of love, that percentage is taking up space, and it's taking up space and keeping you out of the vibration of love. Well, if you want to have a great life and you want to be happy and you want to be surrounded by wonderful people and wonderful circumstances and wonderful things, why would you hold yourself out of the vibration of love, where you would be somehow maybe separate from being on the receiving end of everything that you wanted? So if the energy that you're putting into the unwanted is holding you back from the things that you want, how long do you want to do that to yourself? That's not really loving yourself. That's just continuing to engage in what doesn't serve you instead of moving into what does serve you. And it's such a healing experience, such a transformative experience, to forgive yourself for the role that you're playing in anything that's making you unhappy, between anything and anyone that you are corresponding with. And then you can get into the space where you see that person as a teacher in your life, that you come and you learned something that was unconditionally loving, or you learned something about yourself, and now that becomes a tool for your toolbox that you could take with you to other scenarios, and you're just that much wiser.
There would be no need for forgiveness if I hadn't judged.
Right, that's right.
It's forgiveness itself is a merciful thing that was given to atone and used as an eraser for being on the wrong side of the fence on the way I think,
right,
or the way I see things, or the way experience I have. But if I hadn't judged, and if I hadn't had the negative experience, there'd be no need to forgive. When you're in that higher level and you're in love, and you automatically treat everyone, the animals and everything, with respect, and you're in that peace and harmony and well-being, there's nothing to forgive.
That's right.
And just because you come back, and we go through an earth experience, it's we were supposed to make mistakes in order to learn, or people are making mistakes, but it doesn't mean they're going to stay in it. And anytime you hold somebody back from being as in the light, or being as much in source as possible, if you're participating and undoing that in any way, well, the only way that can happen is the person accepts what you're doing. But the other side of that, even if you recognize that you did something, or started gossip, or did something that hurt someone, and you want to forgive, you want their forgiveness, or you want to forgive yourself for doing it, if you hadn't judged to begin with, you wouldn't have to worry about it.
Do you think it's kind of a knee-jerk thing for the ego to judge?
I think that's the nature of the ego. That's its job.
Right, right.
Its job is to identify its self and selfishness. Selfless. It's not selfless, it's selfish.
Right.
Its job is to separate and to produce a journey for people so that they can so-called get to know themselves. The only problem is they're getting to know what they're not, which is not all bad either, because when you find out what you're not, then it leads you to the right direction of finding out who you are and what you are. Who are you?
Right. Right.
So by finding out what you're not, I mean, it's a process. They work together as a team, really. I mean, it's not that all ego is bad. It's just part of the illusion.
And what about, well, I think that's a really important point, like right there, where it's ego is part of the illusion, and I'm giving my power to the illusion, or I'm giving my power to what's real. And that may seem like a far out concept because you can hit your arm and say, well, that really hurt, that's real. But what's the difference between who I think I am versus who I really am?
Whatever hurt is, Teresa, whatever hurt is it loving?
No.
If real means love,
mm-hmm.
then what's real is it comes from the vibration of love, which is harmony. It's a lot of things that we like, bliss, peace, harmony, wellness, health, a lot of things. If something, that's why I asked you when you had the automobile accident, just to take a look at why you were there, because we attract everything we get.
Mm-hmm.
And what you were doing wasn't anything wrong or bad. You were just sitting there. I mean, it just happened. But the point is how I handle it, a lot of the things, like there's a storm coming into Florida right now. A lot of it has to do the way we handle it and what kind of effect, Well, I just heard this, I don't know, yesterday, I think. And somebody I was working with, they have a tendency to say, I can't believe, I thought when I reached this age, nothing bad would ever happen to me. That was a belief system that didn't come true. And you never know. I mean, this world is what it is. It's a journey. It's a world that it's not even a journey. It's an experience. And the world is going to go through whatever it is. But if I'm in a higher level, I'm going to be able to either avoid it or get through it much easier, much faster, much more peaceful in a loving way than I would if I weren't in that area. If I'm in the negative area, I'm going to suffer.
Right. So I know that I've asked you this question before. We've spoken about it on other podcasts, but we have some new viewers tonight, Nance. And I'd like to ask you, how does one get into the higher level, and how does one know that they're there? If they are a beginner in just beginning to explore these things, understand these things, what does it mean to be in the higher level? What does it mean? How do I get there, and how do I stay there? And am I supposed to always be there?
One way is through the breath, and meditation, doing, peace can be music, listening to beautiful music. It can be doing art. It's anything that brings the focus into relaxation and to going inside. Because creativity creation is from the inside out, right? I mean, it comes from some kind of writing, writing a novel, everything that came from inside somewhere. So, but breathing, and there's so many different techniques that people can look on, all the different stations basically are teaching it anymore right now. And YouTube, I mean, there's just so many different people doing a really good job introducing people to the Veda and the inner state. But you go in, but the first thing that it takes is a thirst and want to feel good, to want to be free from suffering. That's the first thing. Yep. First thing is to focus. I really want to feel good. I really want to feel love. I don't even know how to do that. There's a song by the Foreigners that is one of my favorite songs for something like this, and that is, I want to know where the love is.
Right.
I've traveled so long. I've been so far. And it's true. I mean, that is basically the reason I like that song so much is because there's truth all the way through that song. I mean, truth for me all the way through that song. Because we were lost and now we get found. We now are ascending. Everything is going to be easier in some ways because I do believe there's energies coming to our planet that are going to help people find their way. But at first, the person who doesn't care or doesn't want it, doesn't think there's any hope, or is totally oblivious to it, is not going to catch that wave of that wave that's going to help them, unless they have a desire to be happy. Unless they have a desire to be peaceful, unless they have these things are natural things that we should be feeling and wanting.
Right.
And so now the next step is, okay, how do I get that on this journey, I keep calling it a journey, I don't even want to do that, on this experience? How can I go from here and I had a really rough childhood, or I did this, or I didn't do that, everyone has breath. Every single person has breath. In the breath, when they don't, they're not here. When they come in as a baby, they take their first breath, and if they didn't take their first breath, they are not here. If the person anywhere between that and the time they leave the planet, if they're not breathing, they will not be here.
That's right.
There is something, a gift that was given to everyone inside every single person, whether they made mistakes, they didn't make mistakes, they did this, they didn't do that. If they have the thirst and the desire to change, or to feel good, or to be peaceful, or to be loved, or feel love and be loved and give love, to be courteous, to be respectful, to treat others as they would want to be treated, if they have a thirst for that, it's right already inside them. They're already part of Source. Everyone here is a part of Source. Every animal here is part of Source. Everything that happens, the trees, everything that is here that's got form and been created is part of Source. And we are a crown creation, the human being and the spirit of people, the masters. We're here to learn and remember who we are. And who we are is not better, that's the ego, not less than, that's the ego. Who we are is unique. It's a very unique experience. It's a fulfilling experience. It's something that brings in knowledge and peace and harmony and brings in the meaning of life. And it's not enough just to go through each day and try to survive each day. To have life, that means alive. That means Source and oneness with Source.
So one of the questions that I have for you, and I love everything that you said. I really deeply appreciate that. It's really kind of funny because we have a musician that's here watching with us tonight, and when you just started talking about music, like how great and healing music is, and we were like writing a message back and forth, like, haha, she was talking to you now. So
do you know that the celestial choir is here on the earth?
No.
Do you ever listen to the pitch of a lot of these young kids, babies, 8, 9 years old, 7 years old, little ones trying to sing, babies that don't even talk, they're trying to sing with their dads. I sent out a thing on YouTube on that. And the people who are every age, they bring tears to your eyes. I mean, the music is incredible because music is like sound. It's the other side of sound. Or it is sound, I'm sorry. It's the other side of light. It's part of light. And because of that music, I had to get on this music kick just for a minute. I'm sorry. But the music is part of God. I mean, there's a celestial choir, and I just sit here and I'm going, oh my God, the celestial choir is here. This is such a good thing. No wonder people are reacting so well to it. Even animals put their head on the person's shoulders trying to listen when they're playing music. Music is so, so important.
Yeah, I agree with you. I
I'm
couldn't
sorry, I
imagine the
didn't mean
world
to
without
interrupt
it.
you.
No, no, not at all. I'm really grateful. Music is really important to life, and I love that you just said it. Simple. I mean, you're the queen of simple. Um, music is God. Music is source. You know, we are
I
source.
don't know
And
if that's good or bad.
well, it's great because you are so clear.
Simplicity. Can we call it simplicity?
Yes, simplicity. So
Okay.
well, I'll better say it. You're the queen of finding what works and using what works and sharing what works. And usually what works is something that's clear and in simplicity. Like I just said to you, or I said to everybody tonight, light bringers bring in the light. That's just what we do. And light bringers aren't about the identification of I am a light bringer, light worker, light being. It's you can be, but it's the doing of it that makes, I don't want to say doing of it makes you it. You could be it and not do it, but doing it is what makes you it. And that to me is really profound. Like how often, where you're going to be vibrationally, where you park, what vibration you park in is going to be determined by the thoughts you think, the feelings you feel, the vibrations you get involved with, the belief systems that you do or don't have. How much are you in the vibration of love? How trusting and connected to you are you with source? And you could be from source, you could be source, but if you forget that you're source and you live in lack or limitation or self-depreciation or self-grandiose, all these little nuances that come from the ego are fractions or fractals of separation. And when you really step into your truth, your power, your realness, it's accepting that you're wonderful. It's accepting that you are a source in human form, bringing whatever beautiful, heart centered gifts and energy and beingness in your own special flavor and sharing in that with others. And like Nancy said, you couldn't see something great in somebody else if it wasn't also inside of you. So if you are out there noticing all these different great things, the reason why you can notice those great things is because of the greatness that lives inside of you.
You know, Tree said that if on a higher level of, let's say, a planet, I'll just say a planet, a space, somewhere, a dimension, somewhere, that everybody was in fifth dimension and higher, which is what it's trying to get people to get into now. What you just described and what you told me I was and so on is normal.
Right. Right.
This is the abnormal to that dimension. It's just easy. It's automatic. It just is. It is what it is. That's why all that is, you know, and so on. It's source and it's just the way it is, and that's what it's trying to get us to. On the lower levels, you know, we think that someone has achieved this and so on, that is some kind of, you know, if we took an ego set, well, they're, you know, in a high space and everyone else isn't. No, every single person who has breath is in source, and every single person that's in breath is in source, and they can choose whether they want to be or they don't want to be.
Right.
And every single situation that happens to me through the day, I have a choice. I can either take it on the lower levels and or I can sit there and let's say that I overcome it and I take the higher road or let's say that today I help someone maybe get a little different idea about something. Maybe some of the people that are listening now even. But that's normal on another higher level. It's automatic.
Right. Right.
So it's not in that automatic. That's what's so incredible, you know, in that automatic is where we are now. I mean, it's inside of us. So when we accomplish it, we're not becoming something. A lot of people think it's becoming something. You have to become something. Always become something if you do action. But I mean, what do you want to become? If you want to become real, that means automatically you just sort of love everybody.
Right.
And that's really good for this, you know, this earth as we know it now with all the stuff that's going on.
Yeah, including yourself.
But at that same time, it's acting that way, acting in greed, acting in separation, acting in fear, acting in negativity, acting in belief systems that don't work anymore, is the abnormal.
Right.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So we have about 10 minutes left. And one of these things, like in notes that I wrote down, was
I love your notes.
They make me really happy. Doubt leads to confusion and fear, and it creates a cycle. And I think that's important to look at. Fear creates doubt and confusion. Doubt and confusion create fear, and breaking out of that cycle. So
what it's going to take is focus.
Okay.
We've got to be aware, and understand that if I understand that I have a fear, I also understand that the companion to fear is confusion, or is doubt and confusion. I just understand it. I understand that.
Right.
So if I don't want it, and if I go into a point of confusion or doubt and so on, there's nothing wrong with like doubting what someone says and then learning from it. There's nothing wrong with, because it causes confusion. If someone said, "Do you know God?" and you say, "Yes, I do," how can you know the infinite? You may know an experience of it. You may know the nature of it. But to take something that's a whole ocean and say you know every drop in it may not be accurate.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if it is accurate, that's great. But if it may not be, so the doubt. There's nothing wrong with doubting. It's what's bad or not good for the person, and I shouldn't say bad or good. What's not comfortable for the person is to stay in it.
Right.
We should try to get to clarity in any of those things. We don't have to accept everything everyone believes. We don't have to accept all the books that were written before, in the third dimension. We don't have to We don't have to believe all the prophecies that were said and done during thousands of years ago. We don't have to do any of it. We don't have to do anything. What we do have to do is go inside and find out and get a sense of knowledge and knowing and understanding and peace and harmony and well-being and clarity, so we can tell what is or isn't.
Yeah, definitely. That was one of my notes too, Nance, just in case you were wondering. Clarity comes from the heart. Just ask for something nice to happen.
Yeah, remember I said that a lot.
Yeah, a lot.
And if you have a problem, you want to get God's attention, ask for something nice to happen.
That's right. And it works really, really well.
It does.
Okay, ignoring what you know is ignorance.
Yeah. Most people think ignorance is something that's lack of information. We have more information on this planet and more information in this time period than has ever been before.
That's right.
And more confusion, more craziness, and more this and more that, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So just information by itself without understanding is going to not work. It's all the thoughts giving out all this information. The computer, the AIs can do that. They can come out with incredible information and knowledge about everything. I mean, anything and everything. They do it amazing. I mean, the technology we have that most people don't even realize it's here yet is beyond our greatest imagination. But somebody imagined it, but it doesn't have heart.
Yeah.
So information just without heart is going to be lacking something. Maybe fun, maybe enjoyment, maybe understanding, maybe peace, maybe harmony. I don't know. It's something. It's inside me, inside every single person, to want to be at peace, the real peace, not just because everyone's quiet, not saying anything that really is going to hurt someone's feelings, but they're thinking it. Right. We're not talking about the peace that's not real. I'm talking about real peace of feeling complete and having, And you don't have to keep going through the negative stuff. You don't have to. It means nothing. You don't give it any power whatsoever.
Right. You stop feeding into it, and it
Yep.
starves off. That's
Yep.
actually, it's a phenomenal feeling. And I can
Yep.
think of very definitive moments throughout our time spent together where I've gone through the one side of things, and then you've given me the advice or the tool, and then I call you back, Nancy, guess what? Nancy, guess what happened? Nancy, this, I always bring my accomplishments or my my experiences of how things work out for me back to Nancy and say, well, I took your advice and this is what happened. And if it worked, but then I had more questions because I'm never out of questions. It's this fun incremental expansiveness that I get to experience with Nancy all the time. By something happens.
The only thing you get from me, Teresa, I just want to intercede this before we're done, is the reason that you do that, or you can do it. There are people that I taught they don't come back and ask a lot of questions. They do it a different way or whatever. The only thing I could do possibly as a teacher is to expedite things for you. In other words, instead of you having to go take lots of time to figure it out and so on, most of the time we need to figure things out. But it doesn't mean that we can't have it expedited with someone giving us a little idea where to find the ace in the deck.
Right.
But when it comes right down to the nitty gritty, it was your perseverance and your wanting and thirst to know things and understand things is why you asked me. If you didn't have that thirst and you didn't have that knowledge, or you didn't want it, you didn't care, we wouldn't have had the conversations.
That's very true. And thank God I wanted it, because I've benefited greatly from having them.
I'm glad. It's better than the other side.
Agreed. So, and belief systems. So what if we have, because the role of belief systems, mindfulness, going within, connecting, breath, these are solutions to belief systems. But there are, what if you have a belief system that you've had repeating to yourself for a long time? Something like, I'm not good enough, or I'm not smart enough, I'm not sure if I can do it, that sort of thing. I know
you've got a choice, and you've got a decision to make whether what they said, you're going to buy into what they said, and how would they know who you are when you don't even know yourself?
Right.
So how would they know you're not?
It's the choice. When we're faced with those deep, repeated things, it's as easy as saying,
you can go to a hypnotist and they can get in. Hypnosis is a very effective tool. I used to do it a lot,
right.
Before on health things and a lot of things like that, but mental health as well. And they can go in and take the conversation of the people that said, I'm not anything, I'm no good, or this or that, and you can update it. You can update the file. And then a lot of times hypnosis or just keep affirmations or different things going. But there's going to be, with each person, there's a knowledge in them, and that person who's been told that are going to say, that's not true. That is just not true.
Right.
And they're going to get it. Everybody's going to have insight that they've never had before. That's coming up in this age, and coming up and very shortly. We're in shifts that are going to bring a lot of things to the truth, and I mean the real truth. I'm not talking about everyone's individual truth. You're going to knowledge.
I'm very excited because I've been feeling that energy, and I felt it very strongly today. I got this beautiful energy that came to me. I got to tell Nancy I got my new car today, and I was very excited, but I could feel the vibrational knowing and understanding that things were all unfolding beautifully, and it was like a blossoming flower, and just being the observer of one petal beginning and then the next coming in, and just the soft opening, and it wasn't forced in any way. It just all unraveled very beautifully, And before I even called Nancy, I said, this is the way that it is for us. This is the truth. This is, this is beautiful, but this isn't the special, the miraculous, it is, but this is what Nancy said earlier, this is the way that it is for us. This is the way it's supposed to be. This is actually our natural state of being, is when things easily unfold for us. And we help that process by not having resistance or a belief system that holds us out of alignment with this easy way that things can unfold for us. Because really, I think it's making the choice, but it's also understanding how loved we are. And that's a really important thing too. Understanding how much Source really loves us, and that we are Source, and that by nature we are love. Is that anything to say on that, Nance?
I say agree.
I say agree.
You did. You put it in a nutshell. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so beautiful to experience. I like it too. You said, go within means show me how to love. And I really liked that, because, if we forget how to love ourselves, if we forget who we are, or
I don't think most people know love. I think they know attraction. I think they know a lot of different adjectives that we use as love, but to know that divine love is something people will have the opportunity to know or learn or to experience. But I don't think a lot of people really understand unconditional love. That they don't understand this kind of divine love. Some people do. Some people have been fortunate enough to experience it. Many people are going very much so into ascension. So, there's a lot of change that's going to happen, and a lot of it's going to be really good.
I feel that way. Nancy, do you have a way that you could describe what unconditional love with the divine, from the divine?
You have no motive. You do it because it's in you the right thing to do, the thing that you, but you don't have an agenda or a motive, and you don't ask for anything back.
That's the divine, the unconditional love?
Yeah.
And then I think that's it. I think we covered everything. The power of forgiveness. One thing I had here too, the difference between your truth, your voice, and the chatter of Maya. How that chatter can.
If I usually go by, if it's separating, then it's chatter. If it's negative, it's pretty much chatter. Almost the high fourth dimension with the masters can see the negative, but they can only be positive. So anything that comes together to me in a voice that tells me the future or anything negative, I'd have to question.
Okay. All right.
And the chatter's not me. And so I sent chatter last week. I sent it on vacation, never to return. I just play, I don't take, again, I'm not going to feed it. So I play, I just, okay, you guys are on vacation, and then you're wasting my time and yours. So you're on vacation, and you will not return.
Yeah, what I love about your methods is that you incorporate a lot of fun and creativity in them, but it works. And
yeah, it works for me.
Yeah. Well, it's really fun to see that process, and I like when, in my own way, I get to experience how creativity and fun could also be a part of my spiritual communion, my process of being the human.
Yep. Well, yes, being the human journey. Or I keep using this word journey tonight, and I don't mean to do that. It's an experience.
The human experience.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's not really a journey. A lot of people call it a journey. It's really not a journey. It was an experience of life that we were supposed to learn.
Right. So I think that pretty much covers everything that we had intended to discuss, and we're at that hour mark anyway. So thank you so much to everybody.
You're very welcome. My pleasure.
Well, thank you to Nancy. Thank you to everyone who was with us and watched tonight. Thank you to everyone who will watch this with us in the future, and thank you for everyone that chooses love intentionally and contributes that really beautiful energy to the world. You know, we love you.
I agree.
Yeah, we love you, and we hope that you have a really great night. And we'll see you next week on Psychic Zen 333. Have a great night, everyone.
Good night.